I never thought I'd see the day when Kamala Harris sits for a Fox News interview, and frankly, after it aired, she probably wishes she skipped this one.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
Special report anchor Bret Baier had the honor of conducting the first truly fair interview of Kamala Harris. It was a real reckoning of her record both under this administration and in California politics. Up to this point, Kamala Harris has only agreed to the friendliest interviews possible.
And I'm like, go get your father. All game with Doug.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.
There you go.
Can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision
I know what you're going to ask.
about a man's body? Let's
No.
just pause.
No.
With the race as tight as it is, with weeks to go to the election, Harris realized she couldn't afford to skip opportunities to reach to the middle. She's even started marketing to Donald Trump's most solid demographics, such as rural men.
Governor, what kind of gun is it?
This was a Beretta A400. I bought it when I was shooting a lot of trap.
The pandering shows that they're panicking.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
She even has a polling problem with working class black men. So Kamala, I think, needed this Fox interview. But she squandered it from top to bottom, giving meandering, circular responses that didn't even try to answer Bret Baier's questions. She just tried to run out the clock, and this was after she showed up late.
So we were supposed to start at 5 p.m. This was the time they gave us. Originally, we were going to do 25 or 30 minutes. They came in and said, well, maybe 20. So it was already getting whittled down. And then the vice president showed up about 5:15. We were pushing the envelope to be able to turn it around for the top of the 6 o'clock.
She tried to mess with the timing, and this had been on the schedule for a while, and yet this former Obama advisor said the interview was an ambush. Bret clearly had pressing questions to ask Kamala, but she took the liberty of giving the same old tired sermons about her record prosecuting transnational criminals or Trump's tendency to name call, as if that's going to convince swing voters that you care about the border crisis and the economy, their top two issues. The interview got heated at times because Harris isn't used to being interrupted with facts and logic and good questions by a real journalist.
Citizenship Act of 2021. It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the elite. Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding,
But
please?
here- but this-
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't bring
middle
up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising.
Okay.
Her entire press tour has been a cakewalk on purpose. For the record, Bret treated Trump very similarly when he interviewed him about a year ago.
Corrupt stuff, Brett.
Understand about the Hunter Biden,
no, but
all
that's cheating
fair
on the
things,
election.
but
That's cheating on the election.
you lost the 2020 election.
A win for Bret Baier was finally getting Harris to apologize to the families of the young girls who were brutally murdered by illegal aliens. Actually, let me rephrase. He got her to, for once, acknowledge the existence of these women and their families.
Do you owe
Brett,
those
I think it's
families
really, I think
an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred.
But then she blamed Republicans again.
It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur.
Here's what is also true, Kamala. That border bill that you keep talking about ad nauseum was a cop-out. It was deeply flawed. It authorized the administration to lock down the border after 5,000 daily encounters with illegal aliens over a 7-day period. That's insane. You're telling me that you can only close the border after you hit a threshold of 5,000? Why not right now? Biden and Harris always had the authority to shut it down. They just lacked the political will. There shouldn't have to be a trigger number to follow federal law, which says to detain illegal aliens who cross the border either pending their removal or pending asylum proceedings. The problem was Harris and Biden and their lack of enforcement. If they wanted more resources and salaries for Border Patrol, just make that a separate bill that's narrow, not so broad. But I digress. Here's a wild one from Kamala in the Fox interview.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
Following the law is one thing, but what about advancing a particular law? Is Kamala really pretending like she's going to be a neutral executive with no agenda? Come on. As Attorney General in California, she bragged about this.
I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need.
Kamala seems to have the toughest time when she's asked to debate herself.
When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
And sometimes she commits the gaffe of the century while doing so.
Well, you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Bret also caught Kamala in a trap that no other interviewer has so far.
You call Donald Trump, he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Bret.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
This makes it look more likely than less that Kamala was complicit in the cover-up of Biden's mental decline. She and senior Democrats hid Biden for the greater part of his term, only letting him speak to the media between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., that's his bedtime. Meanwhile, his aides, his staff, and his wife spoke of his energy, his stamina. Then, when Biden was forced to be shown publicly at the presidential debate against Trump, the American people saw A, that their president had deeply deteriorated, and B, that people who spend time with him every day, Jill Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, Kamala Harris, covered it up.
Able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Just a reminder that Biden was ousted by the Democratic Party and Kamala was chosen without a single primary vote cast for her. So what do you think? Did Kamala actually persuade undecided voters in the Fox interview? October is half over and Kamala has already been hit with 2 October surprises, Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton in the Southeast. To learn about how she bungled that response, click here.